Yes, can you hear me?
Oh, I so can. Is your
Yay.
gym really named CrossFit Wonderland?
Yeah.
Do you say it different in French? Is it like Wunderland?
No,
Oh,
no.
okay. Well, I was gonna go that direction. Well, awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time with me. How are you?
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. I'm great.
And what were you doing before this? Were you just coaching a class?
No, we do consultations for people who want to have information to join the gym. So
Okay.
I had a couple of those
Awesome.
coached this morning.
Awesome. What about that box jump workout? Was that today? I saw a post of you doing some big box jumps and just running Jeff into the ground.
I did 8 or 10. That was it.
Fair. That's four more than I'd be able to do against him. So that's great.
That was my workout. It was legit just those 8.
Awesome. Awesome. The
Is
the
the connection good on your end?
yeah, it sounds okay on my end.
Okay.
Is there a delay over
A
there?
little bit, but it was doing that earlier too, so I think it might just be my internet connection.
It's likely mine. I'm out in the mountains in the middle of nowhere. Like we live like far from town, and we literally it's just all mountains out there. Um,
Oh, cool.
so we have kind of a sketchy internet service. It's literally like a local guy who's like, I can hook you up with some internet, and we're like, okay. Uh, but his name is Ken, and he's Internet Ken, which is quite funny. Um, anyway, well, awesome. I'm gonna chat with you, and we're gonna ask some questions, and you feel free to answer whatever which way you wish.
Cool.
And we'll use it if anything that we think is good, and then you can use anything as well. Um, Now, first off, how do I actually properly say your name? Because I hear how Jeff says it, and I see how it's written, and I'm like, you know what? Neither of those things make sense to me. So tell me how you would say your name.
So I have no idea because in French you can only say it one way. And the issue with Anglophone, just saying my name in English, is you can basically pronounce things however you want in English, right? Like you just decide. So I don't know. Is it Caroline or Carolyn? Honestly, I don't care. So it's
Caroline
one.
or Carolyn. Okay. All right. And it doesn't matter to you. So there is
It
no.
doesn't matter. I
Okay.
mean, technically, I think if we pronounce it the way it's written, it would be Caroline. Like it's a line.
Yeah.
I don't care.
But you don't care. And then when I hear him say just Carol, he's like Carol. Like he's like,
Carol, yeah, because he
yeah.
pronounces it in French,
Oh, okay.
and it doesn't transfer in English. Like it's just
Uh
weird. So in English, I would just tell people to call me Kat because that's what my mom would call me, which is like a diminutive for Catherine, not Caroline. But in English, it just sounds weird. So
huh. Okay.
yeah,
Well, that all makes sense now, and my confusion is warranted because there is no correct
yes,
way and everything is fake. Good. All right. My my kids, I'm actually having this back and forth because my wife's from New Zealand, so she's like New Zealand with South African background, so her accent has like these funny little twinges on stuff, and she
yeah,
pronounces like instead of aluminum, she's like aluminium, and she like says
yeah,
so my kids are always like, "That's the wrong way to say it." I'm like, "Well, actually, it's not. It's just, and all words are made up." So we have this conversation often at my house, and I'm glad I'm having it with you as well.
yeah.
Um, why don't you tell me who you are and where you're from? Like that's if I were to say where you're from, who you are, and like that whole thing.
So I'm actually from Montreal, born and raised here.
Okay.
And then who am I? That's a very deep. How deep do you want to get?
Well, so that. I mean, that's up to you. Like, do you want to go to a physical level? You can. You want to go
No,
super deep
no.
inside, or you want to say super surface level? It's up to you.
I'm coach and owner across the Wonderland. Train, train Jeff, train athletes at the gym,
Awesome.
and yeah, try to keep it very simple.
Awesome. And then what's your background in terms of I mean, right now you train athletes and you own a gym. What's your background? How did that whole thing happen?
So that's a longer story. I actually have my BEd, so my Bachelor's of Education. That was my first diploma. Like when I was young, I just always wanted to help people and teach, and kind of always believed in the power of education and power of knowledge. So that's what got me to that. I didn't stay in the field very long just for a lot of reasons. If there's teachers out there, I'm sure they can list those off.
Yes.
But always been very passionate about just educating in general. And I've traveled for it. I've lived in Japan for a year, taught English over there. But basically, when I came back, like I've always done sports. Like I played volleyball in high school. I did cheerleading and rowing in university. I've always been very active. So just as you play sports, you train, right? So training has always kind of been there. And as I was transitioning, I was just helping people. Like people were always asking me tips on how to stay fit, like how to improve this, how to improve that. And that's what kind of led me to CrossFit and getting my level 1 and training myself when I started using the methodology. And through that, I went back to school to get a second degree in physical therapy. So we have CEGEP here, so it's a little bit different than in the States, but basically it's above a physio assistant. We have more powers in terms of prescription, like diagnosis, things like that, things that we can do and how we can treat patients. So I went back to school for that 3 years. Didn't stay in the field. COVID happened, all of that. But basically, I went back just to get more knowledge about the human body and how to train and healing phase and everything that you can kind of get through that. And it's just helped me be a better coach and understand kind of needs and things like that better.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't know you had all of that background, and that sounds like it was relatively recent that you went back and did that physio style stuff.
Yeah, basically right when I met Jeff, we met in 2015, and I went back to school in September 2016. So I was already accepted into the program. And in 2017, we opened the box. So it was like we were both working. I was in school, working at, getting our box off the ground and all of that. So it was a crazy 3 first years. Like we were both super, super busy.
Yeah, I can only imagine. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And so how did you end up owning a CrossFit box? Like what's that process?
It wasn't something like it wasn't a goal of mine when I started training and went into the whole CrossFit thing. I was wanted to coach, like wanted to teach basically. But just, throughout the years, eventually it just kind of happened. When I met Jeff, when we were training together, and it was just like, well, does that make sense? Like, are we better off working for somebody else or are we better off working for ourselves? Then eventually, after the Open 2016, seeing how well he was progressing, I was like, well, maybe it would make sense if you keep, doing this well, that we would have our own box and we can represent ourselves basically.
Right.
So we started shopping around for leases, figuring out the name of our box. That's a whole, like everything's taken, baby. You're like, oh, that would be a great idea. And then you Google it and you're like, it's taken. So that was like
you ended up with a sick one. Wonderland. That's amazing.
Yeah. So when we saw that was still available, I was like, okay, yes, score. But we actually submitted like another one before, and all 3 got rejected. We're like, okay, and we have to start from scratch.
Oh.
And we ended up with Wonderland, and we're very, very happy. But it was just it's funny. So like people who are affiliating now, I'm like, I don't even know where you start. Like in 2022, like there's been, and now they keep saying there's 14,000 affiliates in the world. It's like, well, some of them is closed, so some of those names are taken, right? And I don't know how long they'll keep them, and like what's the process for that to liberate if you want to, because that was one of our issues. We had one that we really wanted, and it looked like it had closed. I was like, maybe we can gain that name back or something, and it just like they ended up declining it. But that was just like, yeah, it's really.
That would be like that would be a cool just part of the .com website if they had like expired CrossFit names or re-up CrossFit names of like, because there's a couple that are like legendary gyms out there that are no longer using their name, and I think immediately like they should be fair game for somebody else who wants to pick that up. That'd be huge.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I never thought of that. Anyway, well, I'm glad that you got Wonderland. Wonderland is amazing.
We got Wonderland.
And now you guys are legit there. So you met Jeff in 2015.
Yep.
And when did you guys start dating? Was it right in 2015? You saw him and he was like, I've got to date that.
No.
Okay, fair. Let that go down.
Both of us were like, no. I mean, not. I started coaching at the gym that he was training. Okay. And so, and like just the evolution of coaching in the box and all of that, like the owners were transitioning and I was coaching, I think like 25 hours a week. Like it was legit coaching, and transitioning into a box. Like I hadn't trained there. So just kind of like I must assert my authority.
Yeah,
Just
100%.
being like the coach. So, those transitions are always hard. And I think they were even harder in 2015 than they potentially are now. Like, people are a little bit more, the coaches are more professional. Like, people kind of expect people from outside the box. Like, it was a lot of the time, like, inside the box, people kind of rose to the occasion and became coaches.
Yeah.
So coming from the outside, I was legit the outsider, had to kind of like, prove myself to the athletes that like I knew what I was talking about as a coach, and all of that. And Jeff would just kind of like, I'm not giving burpee penalties because you're late, like just be on time. For me, it's just like, just be on time.
Yeah.
You're grown up, just be on time.
Yeah.
Unless there's an emergency.
Yeah.
And he would just kind of like stroll in, be like 5-10 minutes late, just think he could like walk into class. And I was like, no, there's an open gym area. Go over there if you want to join the next class. That's great. So that he was just like, man, and just avoided me for like a while and all of that. So we weren't butting heads, but it was just like, this is how I function. And you're either in or you're out. Like, it's disruptive to the class, like whatever.
Yeah.
So it took a little bit of time, and he was also able to avoid my working schedule. So worked out for him. And then eventually it just kind of happened. Like, we were both I was coaching a class where I think it was him and another girl and maybe like 2 other people. So it was a lot calmer. We got to like chit chat a little bit more. His friend was there, and I had already I've been coaching there for 2 months now. And like, we got along. So it was much more, relaxed atmosphere as opposed to like the 5:30 class when you have like 17 people and it's just like or herding cats for like an hour. So it was a lot better. And so after class we just like ended up talking and stuff, and I helped him with like double unders and all of that. And then he left and he brought me back a coffee, and that was basically like the beginning. And it was just like, he just wanted to thank me. Like, it just is like, oh, there's like 2 coffee places nearby. You want Tim Hortons or McDonald's? I was like, McDonald's, please. And he brought me back a coffee, and that was basically kind of it.
Oh man. So I think the more intriguing part of that whole story to me is like, how do you have the confidence to understand and to just go in and be like, I need to assert my authority and like just, well, no, I mean, I'm serious. Like, so in this sport and in this space and in the fitness world in general, it's and the sport world a lot is a very male dominated sport. And there's I know my wife is very similar to you, but I'm just curious, like, what made you have the confidence, or like what's different about you that allows you to just come into a space and like assert yourself and just be like this is what we're gonna do, and like you can't like what advice do you have for people who are stepping into similar situations in similar ways, like, because that's unique, like in that level of, it's something I really look for in every coach that I regardless of gender, when they step in. But like, I think there's something that I'm never going to be able to speak to that you can from your experience. Like, what made it so you have felt the confidence to do that?
I think I've always had, like, I don't want to sound cocky, but I've always had kind of that energy, like even very young. Like, I've been just confident in myself and just like asserting kind of who I was and what my expectations are. Like, you're not going to do this to me, or setting boundaries and things like that. I think that comes from my mom. And potentially my education background, when you're dealing with people, it's much easier. The better communicator you are, the easier the relationship is. So if you set boundaries early, like, I'm not going to give you burpees, just be on time. And then I know that you're trying your best. And if you're late, there's an emergency, there's something, as opposed to like, oh, well, if I'm late, I'm going to have 10 burpee penalty every minute, and then people don't care or whatever. You're setting the precedent, like that you're teaching people how to interact with you. And so I've just, I think, been very conscious of that if I communicate and I set boundaries and I tell people, like, these are my expectations, it's much easier to meet than trying to figure out, like, oh, what does she want? Like, what does she mean? Like, I don't, je tourne pas autour du pot. I don't go by, what would be the English version? Like, I'm very direct.
Yeah.
There's an expression in French, but like, I'm just very direct in terms of expectations and things like that. And I've always been, from a very, I think, young age, like, people felt that about me.
Well, that's awesome that your mom was able to instill that in you and kind of manifest that, and you can walk through the world that way. You also mentioned that your education, both, the fact that you knew a lot of things, like you felt confident in helping people with these things, and you also understood how to communicate, really helped with that.
Yeah.
Have you had run-ins where like you go to do something with someone, like take a Jeff, for instance, who then like like pushes that boundary harder? Like, it sounds like Jeff was like,
Oh yeah.
fine, whatever, and then navigated away from it. But do like, what happens when they go, nah, I'm not going to listen to you? Like, what do you do then? And like, what is that?
So there's a couple of things. The first thing, I think, knowing what people want that will validate them trusting you.
Mm,
So are you not trusting me just because I'm a female, and people don't, like, I don't, people are sexist. Like, it's just people don't realize it sometimes. Like, why are you dismissing me? Is this like
totally.
subconsciously what it is? Is it because you don't think I have enough experience? So like when I started, I've been coaching since 2012. And I
Yeah.
was coaching people, like I was coaching men who had the strength to do muscle ups and I couldn't do a muscle up. You still need to trust me as a coach that I know how to get you there, even though I can't perform it myself.
Mm,
And so, and again, as CrossFit evolves, like all these things I think are going to change with time, but you can still be very good, at explaining, at doing the progressions and all that without me. Like, I was too weak. I didn't have the experience. But some people require the person that they're getting knowledge and experience from to have that.
hmm.
So then I'm just not there, and I can't force you to trust me if that's intrinsically what you need to build that trust. So
Right.
that's one thing. The other thing for some people is just knowledge. Like, do you trust that I have the knowledge and that what I'm saying is actually true? So for me, like, knowing, I knew that I didn't have the strength to do some of the movements, right? I didn't have a handstand walk. I, barely snatch, but I could teach other people because I went and got all the education. I got so many certifications. I watched so many videos, like read the journal, like did all these things. And so by, like, people kind of, I could maneuver them with that, building trust that way, because while I was helping people, and if you stayed, like, I, coach people for a year, and well, people who listen to Caroline get PRs and they're improving. So maybe I should listen to Caroline too. And it's like, don't fight people. Like, the people that don't want to listen to you, then okay. Like, that's my advice. Like, and also legitimately you're paying to be coached. So like ideally you're gonna listen and like you're paying for this service. But if you don't want to and you don't trust me, then that's fine. I'm not going to waste energy. I'll keep telling you what I think you should do, but then that's it. That's for you to follow through. But the people who are listening and people who are applying, if they get better, now I have built trust and now I'm gaining something. And the people who were not willing to do that from the get-go and see everybody progress, now they're like, okay, well, maybe I should have listened, or maybe I need to start listening. And
Yeah.
that's just how, like, at first I was like much more like trying to assert maybe a little bit more like aggressively, like, why aren't you listening to me? Like, do it this way. Like, I know what I'm talking about. And I'm just like, especially, I mean, 10 years later and Jeff going to the games 4 times, like, well, you can listen to me or you cannot. Like, at this point, not like I care about you, but I don't care. If you don't want to listen to what I'm saying, knowing that I've proven myself
Yeah.
and I have like hard proof, like Jeff made it to the games. I've been coaching him from the beginning. I know what I'm doing at programming. And that's up to you. And that, again, it's on you to trust me or not, and it's on you to listen to me or not, or to try it my way, right? Like, I want my feet there, and I'm like, or you can put your feet where I tell you to put your feet and squat how I'm telling you to squat, because I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's like wisdom comes with age, and you just like, that's fine.
Yeah. Well, but I think one of the very first things you said, you were talking about validating where they're coming from. That's
Yeah.
always been, because that's the initial connection point, is you look at, be like, can I validate where you're coming from? Like, is there a thing, maybe there's something I could do, but at the same time, maybe you're just an asshole. And like, I'm not going to take that personally, but I'm going to present to you in a way that makes the most sense for me.
Yeah.
That's cool. Like, that's really cool to hear your process through all of that. And it's also really cool to hear your growth, like where, because
Oh
I
yeah.
I had the same pattern, I had the same path of like, I've been on a little bit of the other side of things though. I had the same level of confidence, but mine was because I could do it all. I have
Yeah.
no background in training. Like, I have no,
Yeah.
like, mine is musical theater. So like, and in terms of the education, it wasn't there, but I could always physically do what I was
Yeah.
to do. So it was like I could walk them through it like a strict muscle up while I was doing it. And I could be like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, so first you pull to here and then you go to here and then you press it
Yeah.
out. Like, so there was always like, it was for certain types of people that was much easier for them to just be like, oh, there it is.
Yeah.
But you, even in my position, you still run into people who are just like, they suck sometimes. And you're like, why do you act to the world like this? Like, this is so strange. So, I mean,
Yeah.
it's fascinating to hear you just so easily describe everything that I've been through and get to the place where you're like, well, I'm going to tell you and you're going to move.
Yeah.
But what I've also come to the conclusion of is like, it sounds like at your gym, like Wonderland, there's no like, it's part of the culture that you listen, that you believe, and you built that very intentionally from the beginning of like, I doubt that somebody could walk in and not start doing like just listening right away, and they would stand out like a sore thumb if they did, because like there's not like, because like that's the thing is like I have the hardest time when, you know, you'll step into other cultures and try to coach and the culture's not there of like listen to the coach, talk when the coach is talking, or like don't scale and just do whatever the hell you want. And like, and because I've always, same way with you, built a gym where it was like, like from the very beginning, like this is the relationship we have. You're paying me for the job and I'm going to make the job happen. Awesome. So where now the social pressures are such that if someone doesn't, they're like, I don't fit in. I gotta
well, we have drop-ins and now it's much better. Because I think like CrossFit coaches, CrossFit, just in general, like it's evolving. I think coaches are getting better. Like everybody's just we're better affiliate owners. Like everybody's just kind of growing. But I remember like you said, like, let's say at our box, like everybody moves together. Like nobody's dropping empty bars or like, you know, you push the plates off and just let the bar drop. Like there's all these little things like, and we've been very adamant and very consistent. Like you want people to change their behavior, you need to be consistent. And so we'd have drop-ins. And it's the same thing. Like, you know how you cue somebody, like, hey, like you're doing, I don't know, a snap, like push your hips back. Arc, like Wonderland is just like, and they just try. And like it's either good or bad but they'll try. And you'll have drop-ins, but like my shoulders are so tight and blah, blah, blah. And like we had a couple where it was like to the point that everybody in class was just like, are you not noticing that like, and I'm coaching everybody, like everybody's getting a cue. And this one person who's dropping in is just like, every time I'd say something would have a comeback. And everybody in the class was just like, what is going on? Like, what are you not? Just push your shoulders. Like, just do it. Like, why are you not trying? Like, it doesn't matter. Just like, shut up basically and do it. It was so funny. And basically like, and it was just a drop-in. So like they left and everybody in class was just like looking at me like.
That's awesome.
So that's just funny. But like, we don't have that now because I think like, or people are just more aware, just like follow the group. And they'll just kind of like go with the flow. But I remember a couple of those instances and I was just like, it was just funny because I was like, well, they're clearly not picking up on this social cue. Just like follow the group.
It's so fascinating. Like, and what's funny is they probably felt like they were hiding in the group because there was 17 people there and they're like, this is way bigger than my normal class. And then they think they're like hiding. And then all of a sudden they stand out like a sore thumb. Like we had it's so funny how you're describing it. It's like exactly what I would have. We had like this 6 a.m. class that was nearly 30 people every day, but it would always have these occasional drop-ins and it looks like it's this big chaotic class, but every single one of these people are like diehards who've been here for 6 years. And so anytime someone drops in, it was like, they stood out like a sore thumb. It was so fun to like, people are like, am I the only one here? Like, what the hell? Like, I love them. I actually have a few stories of certain people dropping in where, like, so for instance, Eric Rosa tried to drop into that class. And we were doing, and that was his main memory was like when we chatted, when he first became CEO of CrossFit, is he dropped into a class where we were doing clean and jerks at 135. And I was like, nah, dude, you're going to do it at like 75 pounds or 95 pounds or whatever. It was probably 95 at the time. But I had no idea who he was. And this is years before he became the CEO of CrossFit. And when we met up again, the very first time we chatted after when he became CEO, he's like, do you remember that class that I was in? And blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, totally. And I did remember the instance because it happens all the time, but it was, it's just fun. It's like, I love to hear that someone else has had that same experience and builds a culture around, you listen to coach and this is how it works. And you move here and people move on my command. It's just efficient. I love it. Cool. I have more questions. Let's talk about your process for programming. So you program for one of the fittest athletes on the planet, and he's kind of like homegrown badass. Like we were talking on our interview, like he's naturally physically gifted, but at the same time, like that doesn't mean shit if he doesn't have a good program that doesn't hurt him and B, actually prepares him for competition to where he can handle volume, have skills, all of these other things. So what is your process for, let's not talk programming for an affiliate. Let's talk programming for that top athlete. Like, what do you do for, what's your process?
So that's been developed over years because, like, let's say you're like, oh, I want to make it to the games. We're going to do Jeff's programming. You can't, because I've built Jeff up over 7 years. So he was, he started with one session, 90 minutes, and then a session, 2 hours, and then 2 sessions of 90 minutes. And now, I mean, with the mobility and the pre-warm-up and the warm-up and the cool down and the, like, it's just like, yeah, he's training 7 hours a day, but it's not 7 hours of WODs, obviously.
Well, sorry, before you go any further, I just want to hit home on the point that, like, let's train like Jeff. And the answer is, people out there, you can't. Like, you can't. Like, I mean,
get there, but it'll take years. Like, right. It's not.
But that's the most fascinating thing to me, when people just hop on competitors' programs and they're like, and I'm like, yeah, I'll be there in a month. And you're like, nah, dude.
No.
Like,
okay. And not just that, like, even then, like, even at 90 minutes or 2 hours, like, are you sleeping properly? Are you, like, and recovering and doing everything that you need to make sure your body is okay, whether it's, physical therapy, manual, like, body work, massage guns, like, whatever it is, like, are you taking care of that? Like, how's your nutrition? How's your stress level? Like, do you still have a day job? Do you have kids? Like, what's going on? Because all of those things are going to end up affecting how much you can recover. Like, the whole goal is to improve. You stress your body so that it creates an adaptation, but if you don't give it the time to adapt, you're not going to make progress. And that's where I think people often, they're like, I'm going to train 2 hours a day and I'm going to you're going to improve faster at the beginning because you're just putting more time into something, but that's not necessarily going to last, because eventually you're going to run on fumes. Like, it's not, you have to make sure that whatever you do more of, you also recuperate more for.
Right.
So that's why, like, if people are looking into, like, doing competitions, doing more volume, more intensity, you have to make sure you back it up with how much are you recuperating. Like, that was the first thing that when we started, like, training more volume and just the kind of going all in, basically, and he wasn't coaching. It was the first thing we do is you're taking a nap, like, every day he naps.
Yeah.
And that's, like, mandatory. Like, you do a session in the morning, come home, eat, sleep, and you do a session in the afternoon.
Oh,
because you need to sleep. You need the hormones. You need that. You're like, I'll be fine. It's like, no, dude.
Dude.
And that's okay. But that's the physiology of, like, do you understand the human body? Like, how do we make muscle? I need to eat protein. Okay, eat all the protein. If you don't have the growth hormones to make the protein to build the muscle, where do the hormones come from? When are they triggered? When do they turn on? Like, when does that stuff happen? When we sleep.
Yeah.
Like, so that's why, like, is your life stressful? Are you getting restful sleep? Are you getting enough sleep? Like, all those things, like, it's super important. And those are often the things that, like, people overlook, because it's easier to train more. It's harder to sleep more. That's why we wouldn't be fighting. We wouldn't be fighting with people to get more sleep like that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's awesome. So I kind of derailed you. So your process was to build him up slowly, and you built him up slowly. But now what's your process? Like, you're at the place where you're programming for somebody who's quite elite, and, like, what is you sit down and you go, okay, here's what I got, and, like, we're getting them ready and blah blah blah. Like, explain that.
So obviously, like, after the games or after, like, major competitions and stuff, like, we will always be readjusting for the next step, because, like, there's certain volumes obviously that's expected at the games, even though, like, this year it's like, oh, okay, more skill, less, like, how much did they actually squat? Like, it wasn't an insane amount. It wasn't either in terms of volume or weight or things like that. So I don't program based on, oh, this is what we saw at the games last year, this is what I need to get ready for next year. That makes no sense. That's not CrossFit, right? If you look at the methodology, and therefore that's not the sport of CrossFit. I think there's a little bit of that's always going to stay true to the methodology. And to me, it's always been a little bit like Matt and Tia. Like, what is our definition of the fittest? Like, what ideally would they be able to do? And it's not 30 muscle ups per time. It's going to be 50, right? And then 5 to 10 years, it's potentially going to be 70. Like, where is the sport? Like, what's the limit of the human body and the athlete? And maybe we'll never test that in competition. But technically, if we're able to do it, we should be able to do it. And so I think all those pieces of, like, okay, now I know he's a little bit better in this area, but now we really need to push something else. because that's what, like, you need to run a 5K ideally 18:30, maybe 18 minutes. Like, I don't know. How fast do you need to do your 2K row? How much do you need to deadlift? Like, how many muscle ups can you do? How many of this? How, like, just his physical ability.
Yeah.
I want to push the margins. And so the programming is based on that, not do I think you need or can he do 30 muscle ups for time because that's what's going to come up at the games. It's like, no, if they come up at the games, great. But technically, you're able to do 50. Let's go for 50. And I think it was like 2-3 years ago. Is it 20? I think it's 2020 because it was the last open before we had to do all the online opens. But it was 20.5 that had the 40 muscle ups, the 120 wall balls, and the cows or whatever. And he did that like 3 times in a weekend because you had to retest or whatever. Well, do 40 muscle ups plus 40 muscle ups. Like, that was a lot of volume. And that's basically it. Like, you don't know what life is going to demand. Totally. So if you're always training for like, oh, this is what's coming up or this is what I need, it's not a question of need. It's a question of what would be like the pinnacle of our CrossFit athlete. We're going to push towards that. And then obviously, well, I can't take you from like 0 to 50. I have to take you from 0 to 10. And then from 10 to 20, and you do everything in increments. So every year we do things in increments. And that's where we've done this slowly, like all the volume and the intensity that's been built over years and years and years. But basically, like, my end goal is where do I think that the ability is, how close do I think I can bring Jeff to that? Yeah. How quickly can we get there efficiently and, being efficacy and efficiency, right?
Yeah. Yeah, what's he getting from it and how quickly is he getting it? And then also like working within the constraint of time and like progressively getting him there, which I find actually quite fascinating because it's like for a competitor, that makes total sense. In some degree, like the actual task is not fully unknown. It's like kind of known, like you're going to be CrossFit, but on the extreme ends of it, right?
Yep.
And so you have this like extreme that you're programming towards, and there needs to be this kind of progressive, like, let's get there because we know the task, we know when it is, and we also know roughly what it is, which is very different than, say, an affiliate and people training for just being better at life.
Yeah.
And the needs and like also the time spent doing it is drastically different.
Yeah. You're like, it's so glamorous. You're like, well, do you enjoy working at your desk 8 hours? Because that's what he's doing. Like, he's working on his body 8 hours. So obviously, ideally, you enjoy what you do in life, right? So he enjoys training. But it is work. Like, that's how committed he is and how focused he is. And same thing for me. Like, I'm just, go to a coffee shop and write workouts on like a napkin. And it's like, no, like I'll do that because I enjoy the art of programming and just like have fun with workouts and just like, can you really do this? And like, there's a couple of workouts that I've programmed knowing that he wasn't ready for them.
Beautiful.
And then when he that was like 2-3, there's one that he's just like, this is the infamous like workout. And he failed and failed and failed at the goal. And then last year, like before the season, I can't remember when he did it, but he tested it in the last few months and he finally made it. But that was like a 3-year like workout in the making. Like, he just did not have the fitness to do it. And then when he was like, finally, like, I did it. And it was just like, it was so cool, right? And that's also, I think, part of like the challenge and why we keep doing CrossFit. Like, we do it because we might not be ready now, but ideally, if you keep at it, you're eventually gonna get there. Like, you might not have a strict pull up now, but you'll be able to get one in a year or 2 years or 3 years. Like, if you keep working at it, it can happen. So, but I think slower than what people can actually like is realistically doable. Because if you're training 3 times a week, don't like, and depending on the strength that you're starting with, like pull up in 6 months. No, it'll take you 2 years.
Yeah.
But where are you going to be in 2 years? Are you still going to be here? Or are you going to, quit? No, you're still going to be here. You'll get there.
Yeah. Oh man, I love your mentality. You're preaching to the choir for sure. There's nothing that I have to like fight against you with. As a guy who's on the other side of things in competition, it's beautiful to hear you speak about it the way you do. What's been the biggest challenge with Jeffy? In terms of and you can actually even say, what's been the biggest challenge of your career, like in terms of your competitive programming career, or even just like your career within the coaching space? Like, you can say it with just Jeff, or you can go bigger than that, up to you.
with Jeff, and I think that's just like it comes back a little bit to like when I started coaching and like the relationship and the trust. Like when there's a lot of things that I've told Jeff from the beginning, and he's just like, "Nah, bro, I'm not listening. Nah, bro, I'm not listening." And then you're like 2 years later, and they're like, somebody else says it, and then he'll listen. I'm like, I've also been telling you this for 2 years, but like fine. So now I've made my peace. I've made my peace with that. But like, I'll give you a very concrete example. When we started working together and doing OLIF and stuff, he wouldn't hook grip. Didn't need it because he could clean 275 and not need a hook grip for it. It's like, why would I need a hook grip? I'm like, well, you do that on your clean, so you can do that on your snatch because eventually, like, you're gonna need it somewhere or whatever. And he just wouldn't do it. And then eventually, and I must have been, so we started coaching 2015, 16. It must have been like 17 or 18. We went to Paul Tremblay's gym in Ottawa. So competed at the games and affiliate owner and all of that. And actually gave Jeff his level 1. And so we went just for fun. And he was training with Paul, and there's a bunch of other people or whatever. Jeff steps up to the bar, is about to clean or snatch. I don't remember. It was probably cleans because both him and Paul love cleans. But he's about to go, and then Paul's like, "Bro, how come you're not hook gripping?" From that day on, Jeff started hook gripping, and I was like, "I've been telling you for like 2 years to hook grip, but Paul tells you to hook grip, and now we're gonna hook grip." Ever since then. And he was also getting, but that's the thing, he was also getting to the point where now he was starting to fail, not because he couldn't physically do it, because the bar is eventually going to just roll out of your hands and things like that. So there's stuff like that with Jeff where I'm just like, I'm going to tell you because I know my answer is right. I'm going to tell you, and you're not going to listen. And then eventually somebody else is going to say the exact same thing, and you're going to do it. And that's fine. And that for me is just like, you've lost time, but that was your choice. Like you can't force a horse to, yeah. So there's a little bit of that.
That's fun. We have I mean, that's another athlete who was like that was Neil Maddox. Do you remember Neil Maddox?
Yeah.
So Neil Maddox, he could snatch 275 without a hook grip. So when we'd lift together and we'd do stuff together, he was like, "No, I don't need a hook grip." And I was like, "You should probably take a hook grip. It's going to make you better." Because we train together all the time. And then this one year there was that, it was like it was a row hang clean workout at the regionals. And it was like row X meters. Then it was like 10 hang cleans at 225. And then it was back and forth between those for like 3 or 4 rounds. So you ended up with 30 hang cleans at 225. And at the time that was freaking,
legit.
like, and as we're testing this workout out, because they released them before the regionals, and we're all able to do these slightly bigger sets of hang cleans, and he gets done with, we tested it like 3 times, and on like the second time he tests it, he gets done and he's like, "Dude, it's way easier if you just hook grip it when you do it." I'm like, "No shit, Neil, like what like, of course it is, like that's the entire reason you do it,
that's why you hook grip." Yeah.
And it was just like, "Oh my god, dude, you're such a horse, like I can't believe you're as strong as you are." But like, that's a really easy thing to just do. But he was never gonna, until he made that discovery. It's the same thing with you get all those athletes who you'll coach in your gym, and then they'll drop in at somebody else's gym, and they'll like they'll get a muscle up, and they'll be like, "Dude, they got me my first muscle up," and you're like, "Yeah, no, the 2 years of training you did with me and that whole thing was you just heard the same cue differently. Thanks." But I love it. Anyway, keep going. What was the other challenge? Your personal, like. And if that was it.
Yeah. In terms of programming and other athletes, I think obviously as I'm getting success with Jeff, like people reach out and they want to be coached and things like that. And I'm just like, everybody wants individualized programming. And like, let's look at where the sport is right now. How much do you think Jeff pays me to do all the work that I do in terms of programming and whatever? And it's like, well, thank God we're in a relationship, and like that's basically the trend to carry over. But if I'm doing that for somebody else, people don't understand how long it takes to program and how long it takes me to get to know you and be able to like tailor workouts so that you're going to maximize, because you're not testing, like it's not the same as like you're doing a workout every day to go to the box and the intensity and the results and whatever. I need to manage some of that in order to make you progress, because there's going to be more volume in all of that. And to make sure that it's the right amount at the right time and all of that, I need to get to know you, and there's a process to that. And if you're committed, I'm committed, but at the same time, it's like, how much is that really worth? And are you going to back it up with the commitment that I need in order to make it worth it? Because I need to make a living. We all need to make a living. And it's like, I don't know if you watch the F1 on Netflix.
No, I haven't.
It's great. But like all the F1 drivers have personal trainers, right? Well, they're getting paid, and they're probably getting paid very well. That driver costs a lot of money to all that.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, I know how much other coaches are making, like personal trainers in Hollywood, or personal trainers for the F1 drivers, and the coaches that are coaching the NFL teams. Like, and then you want me to sit down and do individualized programming for you, and how much do you think that's worth, right? And it's like, I would be willing to sacrifice, but then I need to make sure that you're going to back it up in the back. And I think that's where, just in terms of our profession, like not me personally, group programming, like Proven, Hard Work Pays Off, Invictus, CompTrain, like all these, they're great, and you can get great results and do that consistently. Fix your sleep, fix your nutrition, fix all of that. Because if you really want individualized programming, you're gonna need someone to sacrifice for you, that will believe in the dream that you have to get there, and will work as hard as you will, and that will cost something.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that's something, like, I'm very open. Like, people don't talk about money. It's like so taboo and whatever. And I'm like, I want to have a new car, and I want to have a house, and I want to eat. I want to pay my electrical bills. Like, totally. Like we all need, like, we just need money, and we all want to make a living, and depending on what makes you happy.
Yeah.
Right? Do you like to travel or not travel? Do you want to, what fancy stuff do you want to have? Or do you want just more leisure time, or whatever it is? But that, it's all a question of cost. It's time and money. Those are the two factors that limit everybody. Yeah. Or unless you have unlimited money and therefore can have all this time. So like basically, yeah, I'm not there. I'm not Jeff Bezos, but all of the rich people. So we're all constrained into those things. So I don't mind. And Jeff and I have sacrificed a lot. Like, when was our last vacation? Never. Yeah. Right. Like we don't do these things. And also just like because of the constraint of training and things like that. But in terms of just like, people are like, oh, you made so much at the games. It's like, well, take that, divide it on the last 7 years. Take that, divide it on the last 7 years. Because like, he stopped working so he could train full time. Like that year 0 of salary. Well, we knew we were pushing the dirt forward. Like, it's like, okay, we're not doing this now, but eventually, ideally, it comes back. So there's all these things. So that, I would say that's the most important thing for me, is I wouldn't mind, and I can't, there's only so much individualized programming you can do because that takes time. But getting to know athletes, like that's basically what I do at the box, like being able to tweak and like work with people. To me, it's not a question of level. I don't care what level you're at. It's a question of commitment. Yeah. Because I'm going to be committed. Like, this is a journey that we're taking together. And if you're as committed, that's one of the reasons, like, Ben was the first other athlete that I started working with after Jeff. He was at semis in Montreal as well. And when we started talking, it was like, price aside, like, are you like, is this really what you want? Like, do you really understand what commitment means? And he was already sleeping. He was already prioritizing his food. He was, already being seen by physios and things like that. Like, he was like all the other things that I don't have to convince you to be like, you need to sleep, like you need to do this, you need to do that. Like, I don't need to have those conversations with him. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. Like, let's see what we can do, and let's test it out for the first 3 months. And if, after 90 days you're still consistent, let's see for another 90 months, because everybody's consistency is going to go up and down. Like, that's just like, nobody's perfect. I don't expect that. But is the consistency going to be there 80% of the time? Because that's where the magic is. Like, life is not perfect. Life is not linear. But if you can be consistent through that, that's where you get really good results. And that's where the magic happens. So that was the interesting thing with him.
So if someone came to you and they're like, I've got all these things, what's my price tag? $10,000 a month.
No, then I would have a conversation about what's your budget. Because 10,000, and that's the other thing, it kind of has to hurt. Oh, so meaning sure if I don't know, your monthly income is 5,000 and I charge you 500, does it really hurt? Like, is in terms of commitment, like, I need to make sure that if the commitment is there, then that's irrelevant. But there's certain things that I just want to make sure that the buy-in is there. And that's what I mean. Like, if you have unlimited funds, I'm not going to charge you an unlimited amount, but it needs to match. Like you need to see the value and like make sure that you're going to stay committed, because it's the same thing in regular gym memberships,
Yeah.
right? Like why do people not show up at the regular gym? Because it's just $20 and I can forego $20 and just not go to the gym.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, but that's, to me, it's more now about you. Like what makes sense to you what in terms of time. Obviously the more I've done it, I'm also quicker and more efficient at things like that. You know, you're going to do a .com workout because it's good. You're going to do a Wonderland workout because it's good. You're going to do some accessory work from Jeff. You're going to do some stuff from this. So I'm not like, the different athletes that I have different needs, and sometimes it's like, oh, I program for him, but I'm like, oh, this is good, and I'm going to bring it over here, and like everything kind of meshes together, because we all need to get fitter. Like that's what I'm saying. Like it doesn't matter. I just need to understand where you're at, understand the next step for you to get better.
Yeah.
But in terms of price, I don't have a set price of like, oh, this is my my hourly rate. It's more a question of, yeah, what's your budget, what's mine, let's understand what makes sense for both of us, and things like that. Yeah, but right now, like I'm not taking anybody else on individualized programming. If you want me to program for you, you're doing something that other people are also doing, because I'm going to pull the best of what I'm doing together, understanding where you're at, tweaking it so it matches your level, and then you could do that.
I like it. I love the person, like getting to know them as like a foundation of that relationship, because I mean, that essentially is in a microcosm what affiliates are. Your coaches get to know you, and they can take a generalized program and on any given day make it special for you. And that's what should be happening in any good gym that you go to. Like if you don't have that, then you need to find another gym. like that's what makes it a personalized interaction, in my opinion.
And that's how it works. Like all my athletes have their Google Docs, because it's all into Google Docs. And it's just easy, but they have to write notes. And that's the other thing. Like, how consistent are you?
Yeah.
Like after every workout, you need to take the time to like, what was your game plan? Like, this is how I broke this set up, or that's, not just like, oh, time, took me 12 minutes to do that. And it's like, okay, but like, how did you break up your thrusters? Or like, how did it feel? I was like, oh, like, I feel like I redline, or, oh, maybe I tweaked my shoulder, or maybe something happened. Like all these notes, they're taking into that, because yes, like you receive something from me. If you want me to coach you, you need to talk back. And like, it's just an easy way of communication, because by the time I go schedule the next set of workouts or whatever, I take the time to read, see what's happening, and kind of go from there. But yeah, that's also like super important. Like if you're not going to be taught, like you can't want me to coach you and not talk to me.
Right.
Like if you're not willing to write notes, and that's how I communicate with a lot of my athletes, and obviously like chat, like you can message me on Instagram, Facebook, whatever, like text me, like you can do that. But in terms of just like accumulating the knowledge and knowing like what's happening with you, like physically in terms of programming, that's like super important.
Yeah.
Which is a little bit hard on like other platforms and stuff where I'm just not familiar with them. But the Google Doc just makes a lot of sense.
It gets so much done. It's so efficient. Let's see. I don't think I have much more for you. I think you've answered some amazing questions. I was thoroughly engaged the entire time. I mean, like usually when I talk to people, I'm like, okay, whatever. No, I'm just kidding. But you are fantastically engaging. And I do want to deeply apologize for my wife not getting back to you on ways we can crush Jeff.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah.
We will definitely make that happen at some point. She is amazing. And I think you would really enjoy spending some time with her, because she's very similar to you in terms of her level of cognitive capacity. But she's not reclusive, so to speak, but she's not like very forward facing. She's just like, she's not a social butterfly by any means. And she's pretty hard as far as a woman goes, but I love her so much, and she's so brilliant. But anyway, let's go. Favorite movie of all time.
Ooh. Like a hard question. So there's different things. So favorite movie, like something that I don't know why I've watched it every year because it's on television every year, is the 10 Commandments, which is like the weirdest movie ever.
Sure.
But I just loved it. Also didn't realize that it wasn't an Easter movie until I dated somebody who was Jewish. And then I was like, okay, I guess it's not, because Easter and Passover at the same time. So they were just always on at the same time. So for me, it was just my Easter movie, and I enjoyed it all the time. And I don't know, it's very beautiful, and I enjoyed it. but I think most likely because of that second part when I realized, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, good, great, 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 great. Cool. Very smart, Carolyn. Otherwise, I love Disney movies and like animes and things like that.
You do anime?
Yeah. Well, like the old anime, like Sailor Moon and
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
Same.
Some of them I don't remember their names, and it pisses me off because then I can't find them. But yeah.
It's okay. Have you ventured into Crunchyroll at all? So basically there's a Netflix, but it's only for anime. It's called Crunchyroll.
Oh.
So it has all the old animes and everything you could possibly imagine, and it's just all backlogged, and it's like $7.99 a month, and you have access to everything in the anime world, and you can watch dubbed or subbed or everything. It's amazing. It's called Crunchyroll. Highly recommend.
I'm gonna go check that out.
It's like brings back a lot of nostalgia for me because I'll go back and watch like super old ones, like the old Dragon Ball Z's or like the old like Rurouni Kenshin and Samurai ones, and it's super fun. So I like that. Let's see, hobbies. Do you have any hobbies outside doing all the stuff? It sounds like you're pretty busy, but if like you had free time, what would you be doing?
I love reading, and that was something that I like kind of forced myself back into the habit of just like reading a little bit every day. I've done a lot of reading in the last few years, just about business and just like the stuff that I needed to get like better at. But I do just enjoy reading a good novel, and I haven't read just like not like a novel for the fun of reading. So I'm like, maybe I need to get that on my bucket list. Otherwise, like yoga, things like that. Like
solid.
I've done it on and off for like 20 years now. It's just a question of like, can I fit it into my routine? And like, but when I do it, like I feel great. Like fun to just be taught by others and do something like that. Yeah. We do the jacuzzi. That's what I do for relaxing. Is the jacuzzi.
Yeah, the daylights out of it. What kind of novels do you like reading other than the business ones?
Like sci-fi-ish. I'm not sure. Like the I, Robot. It's a movie.
Okay, yeah.
But it's a novel. Yeah. Like he's one of my favorite authors. Like I like that.
Yeah, I like it. I'm a big fantasy reader, so but not as much sci-fi, more fantasy. But yeah, that's awesome. Let's see, cats or dogs?
Cats.
Pineapple on pizza or no?
Yeah.
Yep. Dream vacation.
Ooh. I'm not sure. There's so many good things. Because like there's like dream vacation, I want to go like right now. I just want to go on a beach.
Yep.
Like cool for like a week, but also like want to go back to Switzerland and see the greenery, or want to go to Thailand and see like the waterfalls. And I've been to Japan. Like I want to go back to Japan so badly. Yeah. There's a lot of really nice places there, but just the atmosphere and how people are, it's just it's just very liberating. Like, it's just funny.
I love it.
I'm not sure. Yeah. I think we can be happy anywhere, so it's kind of hard to be like, but
yeah, but I mean, there's experience that you get from going somewhere. You can be happy anywhere, but still going somewhere, want to go somewhere. I find myself the same way though. I love my house, so like not going anywhere is totally fine. But if I'm like, I'd love to go to the Mentawais and surf some big waves, like it'd be fun. I'm done. I think. Thank you so much for and chatting so much. And yeah. Where can everybody find you if they want
Instagram Lambray Living. I don't have TikTok.
No,
I know you're never too old, but I'm not there yet.
We are too
never got on Snapchat. I think I have a Snapchat account, and that never stuck with me.
I'm
Instagram all the way.
Okay, good. Well, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
And cut. All right. Moving on. Thank you. That was awesome. And you are so fantastic. You guys, I told Jeff this, but I don't know if he told you, you guys are 100% welcome to come out and stay here anytime. We have like, I have an awesome training facility. Like we have our gym well, it's not a gym. It's a studio, but it's a full gym. So we have that, but I also have like an amazing home gym, like everything you could possibly, it's like, it's really, really nice. I also have a giant pool, like a 60 foot long. So like nearly a 20 meter.
Oh,
wow. And so training for that, I have hills, like giant 400 acres of hills for hill sprints and all kinds of stuff. And then we also have the
ocean. You in California?
I'm right on the coast in California. Yeah. So
Oh, okay, okay.
I live like 15 minutes from the beach. So like we're going to the beach after this and we're going to go hang. So if you want to come out and do ocean swimming as well as this stuff, as well as running, like, and we have a separate house on our property that you're welcome to come out and stay in. We would love to have
Cool.
come anytime.
Cool. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And I'm
Definitely need to get out of the routine a little bit. Jeff doesn't want to travel. He's like all bummed out from like traveling from just the competitions all the time. I'm like, but if we're not, for traveling for fun, like that would be like a cool little trip that we
totally.
can organize. And it's like not too long of a flight, but a long enough flight that you're not stuck in the tiny, tiny little planes.
Yeah. Yeah,
So yeah,
and
yeah,
I'm sure RPM would want to bring you guys out, because we could film a bunch of content with Jeff and like start to tell his story, because a lot of the thing is like I think it'd be really fun to, we would love to like make, I know Jeff has no desire to become, I don't know if he has no desire. I don't think he cares much about social media, which is fine. But like, I think
yeah,
his story and your guys' story, and like, if you ever wanted some better content like that told that, we would love to
yeah.
help support that. So,
Yeah, it'd be super fun. It's I think it's a little bit hard because like, and I understand companies like want to leverage social media a lot, but honestly, like especially in the last like year, maybe 18 months, you look at the girls' Instagram accounts and the guys are just stagnant. And the girls, like Emma Lawson, went from like 8,000 to like 200. And like, mind you, she did well at Atlas, she did well at the games and like things like that. But you look at certain athletes and you look at the guys versus the girls, and it's just like, well, who's following, who's on social? Like, is it just more girls? Is it just like where is it coming from?
well, it's
And
not
like,
to follow girls. I mean, it is girls, but it's primarily guys and primarily gross
and
guys.
the guys are gonna follow, yeah, the guys are gonna follow the girls and they're not gonna so much follow. It's just funny, but he's not super social. Like I'll post and like I'll for me it's basically like a diary. Like, dear diary, this is what I
Yeah.
did today. And I'm fine with that, and like I enjoy that, and for me that's a little bit my process for Instagram. But for him, like it definitely feels more like a job. Like
I hate
it's a
it.
way for brands to like interact with your audience and this and that, and that's fine. Like I understand kind of the game behind it all, the marketing, but he's definitely, or at least for CrossFit, he's definitely not that type of person. And I think if he was like, he's super passionate about cars, and I'm like, well, why don't you? Like, I understand everybody's following you because you do CrossFit, but like, if you're passionate about something else, like, talk about that or a little bit, and then like, but then it becomes a double-edged sword because you need to be like super consistent and on brand, right? And it's like, yeah,
Well,
so
I think you need to be super consistent and on brand if your only goal is to maximize your social media, but
yeah,
via just being consistent on brand with social media. I think what he has going for him is he's the fifth fittest man in the world, and he's fucking baller at that. And if you look at people who are really like, all they have something else that's like, and then they want to post about whatever they want, like, then it makes more sense. He'll just keep growing if he posts at all. Like, it's not,
yeah,
it has very little to do. But I think what happens is, especially for me, like if there's this feel of like, I need it to be curated, I need it to like tell a
yeah,
sequential story, it needs to be like good footage, and like, I actually for a long time was really disenfranchised with social media as a whole. But like, if you treat it as a game, it's kind of
yeah,
fun. Like
yeah,
like you gamify it and you're just like, what's the most ridiculous shit I can put out there? Or like, can I make fun of this industry that we're in? Like, can I make fun of the fact that it's a bunch of fake influencers and fitness is no
yeah,
longer the real thing? So it's a mindset thing. But if he wanted help with
yeah,
it, like we would love to film, because I think both you guys have like really unique personalities. It's just like
yeah.
you don't like pull out a camera and film shit at the time. It's like, I'm
Yeah.
just gonna be
Every time I do, and like I try, because I'm like,
this.
I think we are fun and stuff. And so like, and I have stuff on my phone, and he's like, don't post it. Like, this is private. And I'm like, but that's what people like. And also like, to me, that's what people want to see. Like, that's why you're on social. Like, you want to see the behind the scenes. Like, you want to see the cute little, like, everybody's like, how does your relationship work? And I'm like, well, how does your relationship work? Like, how does any relationship work? Like, why do people keep asking us this fucking question? It's our relationship and it works for us. But basically, but I'm just like, that's what people want to see, right?
Right.
And so, and he's just like, man, like wants to be private and stuff. But, and he's also like, if you've seen some of the stuff that I post, like, he enjoys a day off by cleaning. He'll clean the car, he'll clean the gym, he'll clean the house. Like, cleaning for him is like a meditative state, and he loves. So he's very proper, very clean, very organized. So he he wants to curate a little bit his Insta. I'm like, nobody cares. Like, people want the fun and whatever, and I'm like, it doesn't have to be like everything kind of perfect and whatever, and like this image is better, and it's fine because like it's like ideally you're not posting a picture that's like blurry, like okay, but like it's just funny because like, and that's part of his success too. Like, he's meticulous, like he wants to do things well, so he's almost taking it a little too seriously. Like, it is like social media is supposed to be fun, like it's supposed to be social, so like unclench a little bit. Like
just let it go, just unsqueeze,
like we're good.
But what's funny is like he kind of like goes off the rails in random interviews. Like, you know, like you'll see him like in the games footage when he's like, no, I'm gonna fucking beat his ass, you know, like, and all these things. Like, you're like, what the fuck?
His one-liners are so funny.
But they're so good. God, like,
because but that's the thing, he's so authentic and like genuine like that. And now like, not that he was bad, but he's getting better. Like he can fight with the Vellners and Roman, and like he can push elbows on certain workouts and things like that. And his general level of fitness, like he feels better. But like last year, you would listen to him like in the warm-up area, whatever, and like the workout would time be like, oh, 2020 was the best because there's only 5 people, right? And like Dave was explaining the workout, and like all the coaches, like there's 20 of us, like there's 10 athletes, there's 10 coaches, like it's all us. And they announced like the handstand workout, and Jeff's like, oh, that's gonna be horrible for me. I'm so bad at handstand walks. And everybody's like, are you serious? Like, are you trying to like mind you? Like, what is this? But then every event he's like, I'm not good at this. And then like the one thing, like, okay, I'm looking forward for the snatches because I can like be good at the snatches. And everybody, he's so transparent. So and people don't know how to take him. But like, because usually he's like super harsh on himself. Like, he wants to be the best. Like, he wants to be the best that he can be.
Right.
And if that means he beats other people, great. But like, he's not trying to beat other people or whatever. But he's also very like transparent in those moments. And I was just like sitting next to him, just like watching other people's expression, and it was just priceless because everybody's like you're the like we're the top 5 right now. Like, we're clearly the fittest of the bunch. Like, we've passed the stage 1 or whatever. And like, you're there complaining about how unfit you are, and it's like nobody's like. And like, you're gonna be better at some workouts and, you know, worse at others, or not good, or like put it however you want. And Jeff is just like, yeah, I'm gonna be bad at that. Like, that's not a good event for me.
That's
like,
so freaking awesome. Oh man, like that. It's funny because like I would do that personally because I thought it was fun because I like the brevity of it. So I would be the person joking. I'd be like, oh, that sucks. I am not gonna have a good time with that. Like, but like because it was funny, and it sounds like he's authentically just being like, oh shit, I suck at that. And he doesn't realize
people don't know how to take it because like you have some athletes that will kind of like poke and like whatever, and like same thing, like he had a couple of snippets with Matt, like on the first day, like just warm up area and whatever, and the athletes were all there because everything was like they all had their area and everybody was close and it was great. And at this point I don't remember what Matt said, but Jeff just turned around and went blah blah blah. And like Catherine was there, and she's trained with him at ComTrain, and like Tia and like Carrie was there, whatever, and everybody started laughing like that was some quick comeback. Like, you good, and like, but nobody expects him because he's otherwise very just kind of like calm, and like he has a very calming presence, very neutral and stuff. And so every time like those little things come
but that's the thing is like, and that's if you're recording, that stuff's always there. It's what happens is like he probably thinks that you need to like. So if you set up a camera and say, let's fabricate this, it's bad. Like, it's just, that's why, like, if he came out and we just like hung out for like a week and played and surfed and like had random shit come out. Cause I think it's hard to tell a story through created scenarios. Like you and I both can like riff and have fun, but like, it's just not who he is or how he is. So it's hard to catch that. That's funny. That's me and my wife. It's the same thing. It's like, she's funny as hell. And like, and really like quippy and sharp.
So witty. Yeah.
Oh yeah. But like, it's never going to come out in an interview. It's like, it's going to be in our daily life. And then, or like when she's coaching a class and then she just rips into someone and you're like, oh, you know, like,
where did that come from? And you're like, it's always been there.
You're like, well, I'm married to that. So that happens to me all the time. You know? but that's awesome. Well, I love it. And we'll try to get you guys out here and have some fun with it. Do some cool shit.
Sure.
So, thank you so much for your time. And
my pleasure.
look forward to staying in touch if we can, and making you guys get out here and surf and relax.
For sure.
I'll
talk to Jeff. We'll make it happen.
Yeah, please do. Au
Cool.
revoir.
Au revoir. Ciao.